Hello, folks. Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today's video is Seed Time, which sounds like it should be something that a druid in Dungeons and Dragons would do, but it's actually a very, 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 very niche Legacy card. And today's video is funded by Big Pun, who wanted to see this nonsense cast. All right. So Seed Time can only be cast during your own turn. It's an instant, and you take an extra turn after this one, but you can only cast this if your opponent cast a blue spell this turn. Okay? So, well, okay, I guess more accurately, you only take an extra turn if your opponent cast a blue spell. And now we need to come over here to our good friend Painter Servant, who has made an appearance on this channel many times. Okay? So, Painter Servant can turn our cards into colors of any colors, and our opponent's cards of any color, right? See where this is going? So if everything is blue, that means that if our opponent casts any instant spell on our turn, we just like go, bam, Seed Time, 2 mana time walk, which is sick, and I'm really looking forward to making that happen. A couple of things here. Number one, I don't think you can play Seed Time in the main deck. Despite the fact that Painter Servant can turn everything blue, there's plenty of decks that aren't actually going to cast things on your turn, and they're just going to cast things on their own turn. Moon Stompy / Red Prison is a great example of that, right? Where they would cast very, very, very few spells on their turns because they're looking to tap out for things like Trinispheres and Blood Moons and whatnot. However, if we are playing against a deck that has like Brainstorm and Force of Will innately, and we also turn all their random things like Swords to Plowshares or Fatal Push into blue spells as well, then Seed Time is like good to go. Another niche ruling thing here for Seed Time. Let's say we have a Painter Servant in play on blue, and my opponent casts Swords to Plowshares and like removes my Painter Servant or something like that. Okay. When my opponent casts that Swords to Plowshares, that was a blue spell, right? Meaning that when Seed Time asks, did my opponent cast a blue spell this turn? The answer was yes. Yes, they did. So we can still just like wait till the end step and then cast a Seed Time there. Just kind of in case that becomes relevant. Yeah. Otherwise, the core of the deck here is a red-green Painter deck list that I got from the Painter Discord. Shout out to them. They do great work. I think this deck list came from Eddie the Intern, who originally had white in it that I removed. I think Eddie wanted to have access to Portable Hole out of the sideboard and some Aethersworn Canonists in the main deck that I didn't think were necessarily super, super important. We're gonna do something kind of cute today. Painter oftentimes has room for one or two big, dumb, cute things, and Bolas's Citadel is often used, but I don't really like that card because it's not castable, and it's not necessarily as powerful as it is in Vintage, where you really get to churn through your spells since you have so many Moxen as well. So we do have dreamlines of like using something like Fable of the Mirror Breaker's middle ability to discard the Wormcoil Engine and then floop it into play with Goblin Welder. And I don't know if you've ever controlled Goblin Welder and Wormcoil Engine at the same time, but like if you weld them in and out and start building up just like an army of these 3/3 tokens that you get when this thing dies, it spirals out of control very quickly. Even more so if you happen to control multiple Goblin Welders. We aren't really playing very many green cards in this deck list. We were playing Once Upon a Time, which is kind of an honorary colorless spell to help us kind of fix our early game, and we're largely hoping that our giant pile of Pyroblasts helps us bully decks like Blue-Red Delver, which is just absolutely everywhere, and Painter Servant can also turn these blasts into Vindicate, in addition to working together with Grindstone to just have a combo that instantly mills out our opponent. I think that's all I have to say here. As far as like the sideboard package goes, since I'm not playing something like Aethersworn Canonist, I opted for some more Ancient Tombs and Thorn of Amethyst as my hate card of choice. And the Ancient Tombs also pair well with Urza Saga, and Urza Saga pairs well with Grindstone, which pairs with Painter, and there's a lot of little synergies going on here. All right, enough words. Let's go ahead and jump into the magic and see how many times we can actually cast Seed Time. When I started asking around about this, someone on the internet was just like, yeah, no one has ever successfully resolved Seed Time in the history of the world. So hopefully I do it at least once in this league. All right, let's battle. Please consider throwing me a like or a subscription before we begin. All right. Okay, this hand is absolutely a keep. It's actually really interesting how I choose to play it out, though. So if I want to go for the goldfish as fast as possible, that involves playing Urza Saga on turn 1. I just go turn 1 Urza Saga, turn 2 Painter's Servant, turn 3 get Grindstone, have 3 mana, activate. If I get the impression that this is just a gotta go fast matchup, that's what I'll be doing. However, in those worlds, Goblin Welder doesn't get to do cute shit, and Goblin Welder doesn't get to, like, shout, "Get down, Mr. President," as it takes a bullet for a Painter's Servant. So there's a lot of worlds where I'll probably actually prefer leading on Goblin Welder, which means I can't lead on Urza's Saga. It seems like opponent had a tough mulligan choice. They tanked for a little while before keeping their 5. No. No. Okay. What's my graveyard hate look like? Got a couple of surgicals. This is now absolutely gotta go fast territory. We need to go for the turn 3 goldfish. The good news is that I can beat a Grizzlebrand a decent portion of the time this game. I have double Painter Servant, meaning that discard isn't the best versus me. I have Pyroblast for eliminating a creature if I need to. And I also just do have a turn 3 goldfish. Oh, that's not a fatty. That's not a fatty, so that's very good for me. Holy shit, Lotus Petal? Let's fucking go. How do I want to use Lotus Petal? I think I use it to put Painter's Servant into play this turn. All right, everything is blue. And then this means, like, my entire combo is in play, minus the land drops that I have to make. And then next turn, I can use Pyroblast to, like, blow up a land or use it as a counterspell. And then just have a turn 3 kill. I just think Welder's too slow to matter this game in most circumstances. The white here from the Scrubland indicates that my opponent has Serenity for post-sideboard games. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and flop an Arid Mesa into play. I think I'll just attack for my 1 point of damage while holding up Once Upon a Time / Pyroblast. I'm good with that. Do I counter that? I don't think so. I think a lot of times the answer is yes, you counter that. Because, like, then it just turns every single reanimation spell into something that you have to junk. But here, I think it's more important to force my opponent to use the mana on their turn. Oh, I'm going to have to fetch first. Grab Taiga. Counter target blue spell. Very good. And now my opponent's last 2 cards have to be Lotus Petal and Reanimate in order to go off. Which it does not seem like is the case. We look for a Grindstone. And I do the thing. Now all of my opponent's cards are going to share a color, and they will be milled out. Okay. Very important for us that we took game 1 there. Alright. So the question every round is this a Seedtime round? And this one is, no, this is not a Seedtime round. Absolutely not. I'll probably board in these 9 cards. I want to board out Wormcoil Engine here. I do not want to give my opponent something that they can Thoughtseize and then reanimate. Like, I don't want to live that life. Like, it's super cute to, like, go and search for that with an engineer or something like that, and then, like, oh, look, opponent exhumed, I got my Wormcoil. But I think that puts us in kind of a dangerous spot. Once Upon a Time is interesting, but I think it is probably my easy cut here. We're looking for creatures and lands with this cards, and if we take a look here, like, these are not creatures and lands. And then once I do that, I can probably cut a couple of Taigas from the deck relatively safely. And then I'll have to make 2 other cuts. Retrofitter Foundry can probably go. This isn't really its time to shine. And then I can potentially get rid of 1 Blast. They're really good at stopping combo turns. Or I can get rid of 1 Fable of the Mirror Breaker for being slow. Possible Thorn is not good enough on the draw. I'm going to play it anyway. Thorn makes some of these blasts a little worse. And actually, maybe given that, let's play one more land and actually go up a mana source here. I cannot afford to miss land drops in this matchup, I don't think. This hand, unfortunately, is an auto mulligan. There are no mana sources here. I'm stone cold dead to a Thoughtseize, and I'm also stone cold dead to a turn 1 creature. Let's ship this. I mean, Soul Guide Lantern's a good turn 1 play. I will keep this. I probably throw back 1 land and 1 Mox Opal. And this, in theory, gives me 2 mana sources to work with, as well as my entire combo. Something that actually might come up in this league is, like, you can activate a Grindstone. Okay. Hand's bad now. Anyway, finishing the thought, you can activate a Grindstone, hold priority, and then, like, weld in a Painter instead of your Grindstone, and that does actually kill your opponent. Alright, goodbye, Graveyard Hate. You are not Graveyard Hate. So, you know, we will play out things. I can get a turn 2 Painter into my graveyard. And, like, from turn 3 and on, I can also just have Graveyard Hate up. But I think I just die right here a lot of the time. Okay. Alright, goodbye, Goblin Engineer. I don't think I want to manually be activating Grindstone on my opponent. Just saying, okay, this is a great draw when my opponent is stuck on 1 land. Let's thin the land out of the deck. I don't want to draw another here. And floop this into play. We're in the I still need to get lucky stage. But my opponent might be shut down for a few turns here. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm actually going to play Mountain over Great Furnace here because of Serenity type cards very specifically. And I think I will Grindstone myself, though. Because, like, there's some cards, like Ensnaring Bridge, that I would very much like to get into my graveyard. Alright, this is some good, honest-to-goodness self-mill. Hey. This is the sort of stuff that I am looking for. And, like, I can Goblin Welder... Or, sorry, I can Grindstone myself looking for Painter with Goblin Welder. Like, this is a strong position for me if I get to untap with its Goblin Welder without my opponent doing anything else. They can hard discard a creature here, though. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, there is the hard discard on a creature. But I have active Goblin Welder. So I can, at any point, turn an artifact into a Soul Guide Lantern. Or maybe even something scarier, honestly. I think I'm now safe. Like, weird sideboard shit can happen. Those Serenity type cards can happen. Otherwise, I think I'm okay. Let's Grindstone target me at end step. We have not found a Painter yet. I don't think I need... Well, it's fine. Go ahead and preemptively do this. Remove Archon. I don't need that other land. And I can, like, now that I have multiple welders, I can get real cute with looping that in and out of play. Ooh, yeah, opponent not discarding another critter there. Do I want to sacrifice this to draw a card? Not really. Yeah, I think this has just turned into, like, now it's a matter of time. Like, I will just, I will Grindstone myself until I find a Painter and then combo off. Opponent not doing anything again. Go ahead and fetch. Make sure we still have valid fetch targets. Grab a Taiga. Grindstone myself. There is a Painter, which is fantastic. I'll go ahead and just let my opponent go to discard here. So this can just, like, double check and make sure everything is 100% clear. Let's play the colorless mana and pay some life. And we'll just make sure there's no random thing that beats Painter in my opponent's hand. Okay, yeah, and an opponent sees the onboard thing here. Alright, no seed time this round, but we do have a W. Okay, we have an okay opening hand here. I can use this Once Upon a Time to try and find a Painter's Servant. And if I do so, like, I have a Grindstone, and I have a Goblin Welder as a layer of protection. I like a lot of what's going on here. Alright, so I will be keeping my hand. My opponent has mulliganed, though. Alright, let's see what my opponent's got going on. Basic Island. Oh, opponent is a fan of the channel. Good luck. You're in a video. So the first thing that I have to cast is Once Upon a Time, and I think I'm just going to cast it into a Daze. I don't necessarily know what land drop I want to play this turn yet. Ugh. None of those cards are Painter's Servant. I'm not sure that I want a second disappearing land yet. It's potentially really good in some cases and very bad in other cases. I think I'm just going to pick up a Scalding Tarn in case I need green for some reason. Alright, let's go Mountain. I will throw this Lotus Petal into play. I don't care if that eats a Prismatic Ending. And I'm just going to go ahead and throw Goblin Welder into play. I don't want to necessarily use my Lotus Petal to just, like, try and resolve Goblin Engineer this turn into Daze. Like, putting a Painter in Graveyard sounds dope. Like, I'm very much on board with that, but I don't necessarily need to go turbo, especially when I don't know what I'm playing against yet. Okay, we're playing against 8 Cast. Good to know. That is a Kappa Cannoneer that was pitched. Does this one only work on my stuff? Yeah, this is a from your graveyard, whereas Goblin Welder is like straight up an artifact swap, which can get all sorts of wonky pretty quickly. There is another Goblin Engineer. So I have to decide where I'm at on like the fair unfair spectrum. I can just play Urza Saga into Goblin Engineer, put Painter into graveyard, swap Lotus Petal for Painter next turn, and then grind shortly thereafter. I think I like it. There's not too many things that interact with that. There's some. Otawara being the most notable one here. Alright, pick up Painter Servant. There's even some worlds where I actually make some artifact construct tokens along the way, rather than just going for combo ASAP. Actually, I should not yield here, representing a Pyroblast effect. Alright, you get your draw. Ooh, baby! I like that a lot. So let's go ahead and play a Great Furnace here. I think I'm just going to pass my turn and let this live. That may be a mistake. Gives my opponent some more looks at Otawara, but, like, I don't actually care about their stuff very much right now. Bobble is fine. Bobble is totally fine. I've seen my Scalding Tarn. That's all good. That's fine. What I'm doing here is just immune to Force of Will, which is real nice. Am I making a Saga token? If something goes wrong, totally fine to make one of these. I don't know. It doesn't really seem necessary. It seems hard for something to go wrong. So this will be Painter Servant sacrificing Lotus Petal. Everything is blue. Opponent will get a couple of extra cards here. I'll float a mana. Yeah, okay. That's about what I thought. Yeah, we had Grindstone activation with Red Elemental Blast available. Very happy to win game 1 here. I'm not sure if I'm going to sideboard. Seedtime is like legit tempting. I don't know. It's basically only for my opponent's counter spells. Is it actually good? Like, not the worst. It's super cute to get Force of Will and then Seedtime. I don't know. Maybe under international law, I have to board in the Seedtimes if I'm playing against a blue deck. Like, we got to get this off at least once in this league, right? We got to make the Twitter screenshot, so to speak. I don't think I need Retrofitter Foundry. Like, I think I'm looking to either combo my opponent off or play a control game. I don't think I'm looking to go wider than my opponent with, like, Urza Saga. I think that can probably go. Fury's sort of interesting to clear out, like, Size and Emeries and shit. Ancient Tomb is sort of interesting to just combo faster. Pithing Needle's okay as a target. These Once Upon a Times are maybe replaceable. They're okay. Let's cut one red source if I'm bringing in two other colorless lands. And I don't know. Maybe I just junk the Once Upon a Times and just go heavier on lands. Like, when I have access to things like these that just, like, really benefit from Ancient Tomb, I don't mind having access to the additional mana. Oh, it's a Seedtime in the opener. How's the rest of the hand, though? Doesn't have persistent red mana. There's 3 mana on turn 1. Like, I can get real cute with, like, Goblin Welder, Goblin Engineer shenanigans, but I think it's better to just mulligan this hand. This is a much better hand. And it is going to pain me to do this, but I have to throw back the Seedtime here because I do not have access to the green mana. We're very much going to be racing each other here. Ooh, maybe less so now that, like, Aether Spellbomb is a thing. Like, that's just sitting on board to bounce a Painter Servant. So has this just become an Urza Saga hand? This has probably just become an Urza Saga hand where, like, I punish my opponent if they ever leave me in a situation that I can just win via Painter. I don't know what I'm doing with this Goblin Engineer. Alright, I don't want that. Alright, I'm going to have the worse Urza Saga tokens for a little while. Maybe for the entire game. But hopefully I can string together something kind of cool. I'm going to go ahead and respond to that. I think my opponent gets a Pithing Needle for Grindstone here. Then I might need to work kind of hard to win the game. Not like 100% hard, because, like, Goblin Welder, like weldering out Pithing Needle just for a bobble or something stupid like that, is a very realistic way to try and win the game. But I'm on the wrong side of the equation here. Ooh. Oh, geez. Shotcast. That's rough. All right. All right. So, let's gain 8 life. And go from there. I guess I'd like a Pyroblast effect. Like, Pyroblasting that Pithing Needle is pretty good. Opponent potentially fishing for Force of Wills. And that's not great for me. I don't think I'm making a construct token here. I think I need to vomit cards out of my hand. I think this is going to become Pithing Needle on Spellbomb. I play a red land of some kind. Play Goblin Engineer. Search up an Ensnaring Bridge. Yes, I will use this ability. Throw Ensnaring Bridge in the graveyard, and then resolve a Painter. Hopefully, anyway. Alright. Everything's blue. And now I can try to get to the point where I empty my hand. It is a problem, but hopefully I can just buy enough time by chump blocking with a Painter to make it so that I have another turn to actually get this stuff in play. Okay, that's fine. That's not overly annoying here. We're very far away from even thinking about trying to combo my opponent off. Although this notably does make it very hard for me to get Grindstone out of play. Yeah, this is actually going to be quite tough to win at this point. What's happening? Is a Kappa Cannoneer happening? Oh shit, it's Petty Theft. Shit, that is very bad for me because that means that this has to chump block or I'm dead. And I still take 10 here. I don't think I'm on any outs anymore. Like I can't think of anything. Yeah. Unseed. Alright. We've got a weird amount of things to think about that interact with my stuff. I think I'm more or less running back the same configuration. I could try Once Upon a Time when I'm on the play. But also, like, choose to not be a believer in Seedtime. But I believe in Seedtime. Have to believe. Okay. I get that. Okay. I've got a plan. Got a plan. Alright, my opponent has gone to 6. think I can get the Taiga here pretty safely most of the time. Man, I really just want to weld in this worm coil. That's what I'm here for. We also considered a Mirror Battlesphere in this slot. One of the initial drafts of the deck somebody picked up on the Painter Discord. All right. So, gonna be Urza Saga. And I will just play this out simply as an artifact. And now we wait. I'm not gonna take an attack here. I don't think the 1 point of damage is super relevant. Like, I think I will win this matchup by miles if I win, not by inches. Whereas, ooh, please name Grindstone. Please fucking name Grindstone. Name it. Fuck. No, how did they know? How did they know? Damn it. Damn it. Alright. So, Goblin Welder is off. Makes Fable of the Mirror Breaker a lot less attractive. I probably just make Urza Saga Construct tokens now. That means that this is attacking. This is not necessarily where you want to be with a Goblin Welder. My opponent's Urza Saga ticks up. We'll see if they have the next land. Okay, they do. My Worm Coil plan was thwarted. That was gonna be so cool. Okay, so they're doing this with this timing to turn on their Mox Opal. Very respectable. There's worlds where I can just, like, get to the point where I actually hardcast a Worm Coil. There's also worlds where I just, like, draw a Painter and accidentally kill my opponent at some point. This is not necessarily that point yet. Alright, so I've made a new creature. I just want to shut off my opponent's Urza Saga when I have another Urza Saga. I could get Mox Opal and then go Mox, Urza Saga, Lotus Petal, Abel. That's not crazy. I could also get Aether Spellbomb preemptively, but that's kind of awkward. I think I like the Mox. So there's Opal, Urza Saga, Lotus Petal. This is a 5/5 for combat. Successfully. Now let's Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And I think since Painter has such a good chance at just outright winning me the game, I probably junk both of these next turn. But a lot of things can happen in a turn cycle when my opponent has access to that much mana. Okay, they are going the Shadow Spear route. That's fine. We may not even be equipping this turn. It's hard to say. Ooh, that's very good. Something to keep in mind is my constructs are a little bit bigger than they actually look, because this thing is about to attack and create a treasure, turning both of my things into 5/5s. And realistically, they're actually at least 6/6s because of Urza Saga activating again. Is this a Shadow Spear activation? It is. So then the next question is, like, is my opponent attacking? Attacking is guaranteed. Lifelink. I think I'm just taking this. Like, I can trade 2 bodies for it, but I'm going to make my opponent chump block with this token on their turn in all likelihood. Alright, cool. So, yes, I'm using this ability. I have 1, 2, 3, I have 4 mana. 5 mana with treasure token. Maybe I end up casting Worm Coil. This is going away. This is interesting because it means that I can have 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7 7s, 2 7 7s attacking this turn. Maybe I just discard 1. Keep the Worm Coil. Ooh. That's not immediately good, but it's very interesting. Let's play out a new Grindstone. Attack, attack, attack. Actually, I guess I should have attacked with the Welder in a lot of worlds. Okay. Do I want to do this now? I think I want to do this now. I still have Pyroblast up because of treasure token. So this puts my opponent to 2. And Ancient Tomb is no longer a valid mana source, at least in the short term. Okay, that's fine. Opal is fine. Yeah, just let that happen. Like, the treasure token is very real in terms of, like, the size of my creatures here. I have 3 creatures, all of which are lethal. Um, I have Goblin Welder to chump block here, so that I'm not taking lethal this turn. And get Ottawara'd. There are a decent number of worlds where my opponent has a counterspell. And I could get punished for not attacking with Welder. Game's complicated. Okay, so my opponent is going to go ahead and force the chump block. That's fine. I am fine taking 10. I could turn it into 9, but then I'd be attacking for less back, so I think I'm okay with this. Who of these have to get through? Oh, think about that line. That occurs. Got the thought monitor as a real problem for next turn. Alright. Turn on Force of Negation by waiting here. Alright, so I turn Fable of the Mirror Breaker into Reflection of Kiki Jiki. Now I have to figure out what I'm doing with the rest of this turn. I will have 8 8s, 9 9s from Search, and 10s from Grindstone. I have 3 10 10s attacking. I can try to get this out of the way, and then win that way. Let's attempt to Pyroblast this right now, and see if that happens, or I make any further decisions. Awkward if this gets Force of Negationed. Has gotten Force of Willed. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. Do I have any sweet utility cards? I can go up to 5 mana. I can Pithing Needle something. That doesn't really do it for me here. Retrofitter Foundry's in the board. I think I'm dead. I think the Trample beats me here. I am going to see if I am wrong by attacking my opponent. I can, like, do this, put it on Shadow Spear. I have 3 9/9s now. I attack with all of them. My opponent blocks 1, goes to 19, takes 18. Treasure token for Grindstone doesn't do anything. Dead in the air on the crackback. So the only way I possibly win is swinging and my opponent messing up. Oh, shit. Shit! They had more. Okay. Okay. Yeah, my opponent has multiple pieces of interaction there. I don't think I come out on the right side of that. Yeah, my opponent keeps their stuff alive. They increase their life total, and I am dead in the air. I will concede. Rats. I wonder if that one was winnable. Like, the Goblin Welder non-attack was potentially relevant, although I don't know. Like, then I'm chump blocking with a construct, and it's a different game. Great game, though. Ooh. Opening hand has Painter and Grindstone, and a Once Upon a Time to look for another land. That all sounds fantastic. Oh, we're doing this again. Absolutely. So we're playing against 8cast again. And opponent has had a pretty explosive start of their own. Ooh! Absolutely good with this. I'm just looking for land here. Why have you forsaken me, land? This will be Goblin Welder. And I think we are going to not go Operation 100 miles an hour turbo here, and I think we're just going to Pyroblast, or sorry, Red Elemental Blast the Emery. Okay, yeah. And this is one of the reasons to do this. If we kill the Emery, it is fantastic for us. And if we don't kill the Emery, we get a Force of Will. And if my opponent spends their turn doing Chalice on 1, I just play Land Drop into Painter Servant and then get Grindstone into play off of Urza Saga. And I'm just totally fine. Yeah, nice. Now we're just essentially racing my opponent's Goldfish speed. And they have shut off their ability to Aether Spellbomb because of their own Chalice of the Void. Which is sick for me. And opponent also physically cannot have a counterspell currently. That beats me. Like, their stored card is in the form of Urza's Bauble, which is not currently fast enough. I can technically do some Urza's Saga shenanigans if I want. I might just, like, throw an engineer into play instead. I think opponent potentially should have held that Lotus Petal. Alright, draw your card. Cool. Yeah, I feel so heavily that I am just comboing off this game that I don't think I'm going to make Urza Saga Construct tokens. I'm just going to play Goblin Engineer this turn instead. Note, it does have to be Engineer and not Welder. I will use this ability. I am going to go ahead and put a Grindstone into Graveyard, just in case something were to happen to this Urza Saga. I do not expect it to, but just in case. Alright, so there's your 1/1 with Retrofitter Foundry. Bobble is fine. More Bobble, also fine. These cards just aren't having an immediate impact on the game, which is what opponent needs. Alright, so you get to draw 2 cards. Soul Guide Lantern, not really a relevant draw here. I guess I can Pithing Needle Otawara with this, actually. Pithing Needle Otawara, play land drop, have 3 mana to activate Grindstone. No, that doesn't actually work the way I want it to. Work on artifacts that way. Let's go ahead and put the Grindstone into play. I'll play Scalding Tarn. Go ahead and fetch. Throw a Taiga into play. I can activate while holding up Goblin Engineer, but if my opponent has something, it just bounces it. Let's just go ahead and move to my opponent's turn, and I'll force them to use the Otawara mana on their turn, if they have something. Gives up a mana on my end, but I don't think it matters. Alright, so let's grind you and see if you have Otawara. Nope, okay, cool. Alright, so we've come out ahead here. Okay, Seedtime legitimately would have been, like, very good the previous round as a way to give me an extra turn in a very tight situation. Let's continue trying to live that dream. Again, I don't think Retrofitter Foundry is where I want to be in this matchup. And then what did I do from there? Once Upon a Time? I don't know, Once Upon a Time is really good at finding Painter, which is important. Like, there's some things like Soul Guide Lantern that are very niche and not super important, but in the niche situations, they matter a lot. It's also just like a 1-drop when my opponent still wants to be Chalice of Avoiding me, so I don't know how good it is to actually clear out my opponent's graveyard. I'm going to try cutting that this time. I board in 2 lands. I can probably go down 1 other land, go down 1 mountain, and 2 Once Upon a Time, question mark, question mark, question mark. My opponent in the previous round messed up my whole, like, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Worm Coil, Engine Dream. It was sad. Okay. Is this hand actually good? It's, like, so close to doing a lot of things. It needs more mana. Between my draw steps and Once Upon a Times, I can definitely hit 1 land. Really need multiple, though. I'm gonna mulligan this one. It's real close. I can do this on turn 2. I am going to keep this hand pitching a secondary Ancient Tomb, and I think be okay with it. Like, I can use Once Upon a Time to look for Painter Servant. Alright, my opponent has Chalice to me. That's fine. I don't mind that too much. Oh, that's very good. Alright, so here's our free spell. Urza Saga? Urza Saga is very good here. I'm going to be taking that. Turn 1 Urza Saga, turn 2 Painter, turn 3 win. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Fable of the Mirror Breaker if things go south somehow. Alright, not the Seedtime filled goodness that I was hoping for, but, like, still a very objectively powerful hand. We'll see if my opponent has something very strong of their own, like a Kappa Cannoneer. Yep. Nope. Thoughtcast. Sure. Okay. Nothing else to do with the final colorless mana that was remaining there. Let's see if we eat a counter spell here. Everything's blue. You've got the onboard win next turn. and the appropriate amount of mana. Okay. Opponent could go like Mox into Brazen Borrower. That would be a thing that could disrupt this. Otherwise, I think I'm good. I guess Dismember? Yeah, I guess there's Dismember. Yeah, I think that's about it. So let's float a mana. Grab a Grindstone. Play a land, and we'll just activate this now. Show me Dismember. Nope. They did not show me Dismember. All right, we have redeemed ourselves for last round, and we're up to 2-1. Hey folks, I hope you're enjoying the show. If you are, and you're in the position to financially support me, please consider doing a donation deck list or doing something that pledges some money my way every month, be that a Patreon subscription or a YouTube membership. If you support me on Patreon or become a YouTube member, you do gain access to my Discord, which is a pretty chill place. Alright, plug over. Let's get back to the content. Alright, I'll be keeping my opening hand here. This is going to be a slower, more methodical game in all likelihood. Like, we've got welders and engineers. I'll be able to bring stuff back from the graveyard. It's super unfortunate that like my singleton Wormcoil engine is in my hand with this hand, though. Okay, well, this is what we call the illusion of choice. I will take a goblin engineer. And let's just go mountain into goblin welder. There's some fringe scenarios where I want to play Arid Mesa and crack it first in case I'm playing against like a Stifle deck or like an Ashiok deck or something. But I think there's more worlds where like my Taiga ends up getting wastelanded at some point, and I want to replay that. Oh, we're playing against Hammer Time. I need to get an artifact into the graveyard. Then I feel pretty safe. Yeah, Wormcoil Engine, you are in the wrong fucking zone, bud. Wrong zone. Alright, let's figure out what we're doing with Goblin Engineer here. I'm going to use this ability. Ensnaring Bridge is like almost good. Pithing Needle's not as good as it looks. Because like Sigarda's Aid just allows you to attach that. Ensnaring Bridge isn't as good as it looks. You know, some of that stuff can be moved around and some of this stuff can be done at instant speed. I can get half my combo in Prey. I think I'm just going to get Ensnaring Bridge to make it more awkward to attack with the same creature twice. Alright, there is an Urza Saga. I do also have the random problem that I don't usually have with this deck of not actually having an artifact in play. Stoneforge is fine. Alright, and there is a hammer. If I could kill this Ornithopter, I would be a happy boy. Okay, there's an artifact. Ensnaring Bridge is now on the table. I can also Goblin Engineer for something else. Pithing Needle not super great. Again, because of Sigarda's Aid. Allowing the attach. Guess I could like get a Retrofitter Foundry going. That's not totally crazy. Like getting a Retrofitter Foundry is chump blockers. Oh, that's weird. Oh, I can also just like get Painter's Servant and be threatening to combo my opponent off. I don't really hate that. Like the Retrofitter Foundry is just like such a mana sink to do cute things. I think there's a decent amount of worlds where I just need to rip well here. Maybe I should have just gotten half my combo the first time instead of fucking around with Ensnaring Bridge. Table of the Mirror Breaker would have been kind of cool. Alright, is Ornithopter crashing in? Ornithopter is crashing in. I will choose no blocks. And we'll see if my opponent has double hammer. Double hammer beats me here. They do have double hammer. Eat your heart out, Ensnaring Bridge. Don't have a blast, which would get me out of this situation. We're already in blockers, so like now this has lost flying, like that's not relevant. I will die. GG's. Alright, Soul Guide Lantern, completely unnecessary. Pithing Noodle, awkward, but probably still playable. Seedtime, too awkward here. Fury, pretty reasonable. For worlds where Retrofitter Foundry is okay. I think I'm looking at bringing in Fury and some number of Ancient Tombs. I don't think I want to mess around with Thorns or anything. What don't I want? How often will I Goblin Engineer for Wormcoil Engine here? sometimes. But that feels a little clunky. If I'm cutting that, maybe I go down some number of fables and I'm just trying to innately draw cards instead. Going up some ancient tomb while cutting some of my top end, though, is a little sketch. Turns into a turn 2 play with more ancient tombs. Maybe I cut a couple of ones. I don't know. Like, finding painters so important here. Eh, eh? Maybe like, yeah, yeah. Maybe something like that. Unsure. Like, the ancient tombs help cast the furies that I'm bringing in when I actually want to hard cast those. All right. This hand goldfishes exceptionally quickly. I will keep this. So we'll start by casting Once Upon a Time. Illusion of Choice. I'll take a Scalding Tarn. And we'll go ahead and play Urza Saga and Pithing Needle. I don't know what to Pithing Needle here. I don't know how much Colossus Hammer matters. I think I'm actually going to take a second and pull up this deck list. I think this was like by Spider Space. Yes, here we go. All right, let's move that off to the side. You come up here. All right, that is not Spider Space. Okay, here we go. So there are still Pure Steel Paladins, so maybe Colossus Hammer is still correct. All right, we'll still name Colossus Hammer then. And then I just play Painter Servant next turn and kill my opponent on turn 3. Plains, Sigarda's Aid. That's fine. I'm gold fishing faster here. Bridge is an okay draw. Is there any world in which I need to play Ancient Tomb this turn? I don't think so. Let's go ahead and just fetch out a land. Play Painter Servant. Everything's blue. I've just gone turbo here. Got float mana, do Ancient Tomb, activate Grindstone, and if something goes wrong, I play Goblin Welder. Yeah, your Stoneforge is fine. I believe that means you are dead. Citizen's Crowbar. Enters the battlefield, make a token. Okay, so it's a way to destroy artifacts or enchantments. That's fine. Grindstone, Ancient Tomb, 3 mana, activate target you. Okay, cool. Dead. I now know about Citizen's Crowbar. No, like some of the Goblin Welder, Goblin Engineer stuff seems a little less good. Like, I think we're just like punching each other in the face until one of us drops dead. And I don't want to be grinding in those scenarios. I want to be the person who is punching harder and first. At the same time, like, Engineer is a tutor. I don't know. Maybe it's better to play Mountain than this other Fable of the Mirror Breaker. How fast is this hand? For 1 Grindstone. Turn 2 Engineer for Painter. Turn 3. In theory, I can draw a land. 3 mana, activate Grindstone, targeting my opponent. Activate Engineer, returning Painter Servant. Now, this is a turn 3 if I have a land. This is a keep. Alright. That's a pretty good Pithing Needle. Pithing Needle is a card that I wish I was better at answering. Okay, that's a nice draw. This can be spell 1. Hey, actual choices now. Second Goblin Engineer doesn't really do anything here. I'm going to take this. It could be a little awkward in some worlds, though. So let's go Ancient Tomb. I don't want to fire this card off yet, because like I might change my mind on what I want. So let's go ahead and play out a Retrofitter Foundry, and then play out a Pithing Needle. I am going to put that on Colossus Hammer, since that is a central card to my opponent's deck. I know they have onboard Urza Saga. I think in most worlds, my Goblin Engineer is going to get an Ensnaring Bridge, and like we're going to stare at each other for a while. And in those worlds, I don't care about Urza Saga tokens. All right, my opponent is going for Citizen's Crowbar, which doesn't actually matter too much in the world where I control Goblin Engineer. Like, this is sacrifice the Citizen's Crowbar to destroy an artifact or enchantment. So Let's get Goblin Engineer going. All right, cool. Ability. We'll go and find an ensnaring bridge. If I want to give up Lotus Petal to play a Grindstone this turn and get this card out of my hand, I think I do. Spent that. The thing here is that, like, my opponent has to respect this ensnaring bridge happening, and they also have to respect the fact that, like, I might remove Pithing Needle and just outright kill them. Multiple hammers here plus Sigarda's aid would be annoying. I guess there's also worlds where my opponent has, like, artifact hate, or sorry, graveyard hate, and can nuke my ensnaring bridge from my graveyard. Like, that's awkward too. I have picked up a Shadow Spear. Means that, like, some hammer shenanigans plus trample could happen at some point, and my opponent doesn't want me to have chump blockers via Retrofitter Foundry, which is reasonable. Alright, there's the crowbar. Ooh, there's a Swords to Plowshares on my creature. Sure, that's pretty good. I will take 1 point of damage from Esper Sentinel. I'm at 16. My bridge is in my graveyard. Gotta get this out of play. If I get this out of play, oh, good news for Phil fans. I am just going to use my mana efficiently here rather than sandbag my stuff. Everything is blue. I have a chump blocker available via Retrofitter Foundry, if that's something that needs to happen. My opponent's pretty tight on mana, and I haven't given them cards off of Esper Sentinel, like a lot of blue decks might. My Retrofitter Foundry can stop Urza Saga tokens for a little while, but this Shadow Spear might beat me in the long term. My opponent taps too much of their mana, though. Like, I top deck a Blast and my opponent dies. I guess I can dismiss this at this point. Okay, we're just moving to the end of turn. I am going to start doing this thing. Might not do it every turn, but every time I do this thing, like, it incentivizes my opponent to spend more mana or potentially tap out for Shadow Spear purposes. Alright. I need to check my sideboard real quick. I have one Fable of the Mirror Breaker in my deck. I think I will hold one of these, but not both. And apologies if small portions of this are cutting out. I'm still coughing quite a bit. Like, I am past most of the primary COVID symptoms, but I still have a lingering cough that sucks. I'm trying to be pretty good about cutting that stuff out. I'm going to inevitably miss some, but I'm working on it. See what this fetches up. I don't know if there's more Pithing Needles that I have to worry about. Paradise Mantle. So this essentially turns you into a Bird of Paradise. Yeah, that's fine. Would love a Goblin Welder type card. Blast also would be great. Hey, it's Goblin Welder. There's a lot of worlds where I just die, though. Or this becomes not summoning sick. The Shadow Spear is rough. I am going to cast this card now, purely for Esper Sentinel tax reasons. Lets my opponent know that I don't really have anything going on right now. But I don't want to be in the situation where next turn I find myself 1 mana short of being able to go off. You're still Paladin. That's fine. Equip cost for this is now 0. Yep. I'm not too awful far away from dead here. Wonder if I am dead if my opponent swings out. I haven't mathed that out yet. I don't think so, because I just make another creature. Just be chump block with servo token. Take 9. That's fine. Opponent has the mana for Citizen's Crowbar available. Alright. Guess I can just turn this into a servo. Or sorry, into a Thopter now. A1. Sacrifice this. I could turn this into a 4/4 if I wanted. I don't think that's worth the 2 life here when my life total is so low. Drawing Lotus Petal. Well, I get an Ensnaring Bridge, but then my opponent just blows it up, and I think I'm dead. I'll pay for your damn tax. Yes. Me winning here requires my opponent, like, not using Citizen's Crowbar. I don't know, maybe for that reason I hold Lotus Petal. It's a shame I don't have anything that just kills one of my opponent's artifacts, because then I just kill an artifact and weld out their Pithing Needle. I just, like, haven't had an opportunity to do that. What the hell is this? Alright, beginning of combat. Goblin Welder. Let's weld out this Lotus Petal or Ensnaring Bridge. My opponent, unfortunately, just uses Citizen's Crowbar. Yeah. I needed to have this welder one turn earlier so that I could put the bridge in play and then play around that. Yeah, so I can make chump blockers. I'm going to die to the Tramplers even if I have like a 4/4 here, I think. So I turn this into a 4/4. Take 4 from this creature. Yeah, this isn't quite going to work out in my favor. GG's. We lost to Citizen's Crowbar. Womp womp. I've got kind of a tricky hand here that I think I'm ultimately going to mulligan. Like, I have the ability to tutor for a missing combo piece, but I don't really have an artifact to get this stuff going unless you count me making Urza's Saga tokens. And at that point, this hand is just incredibly slow. I think I would rather mulligan that. Yeah, this hand's okay. We'll keep this. This is fine, I guess. Let's maybe throw back a Taiga. I can potentially play out non-wastelandable lands and artifact lands that matter for other reasons. So the big question here is going to be like, is my opponent on Death and Taxes, or are they on a blue-based control deck? And unfortunately, since I want to play a card on turn 1, I have to make some initial decisions. Ooh. Or I see what my opponent is doing. Turn 1 Grindstone, turn 2 Painter, turn 3 Win is what I have right now. Take a redundant Painter. Take a Welder. Welder's bad versus Death and Taxes. Just gonna exile my shit. A little tough. If I play Welder and I play it out and it gets a prismatic ending from a blue control deck, I'm really happy with that. Alright, let's do that. Let's take the Welder, and then I can play out Welder. Then next turn I can play Ancient Tomb, Painter, Grindstone. Just say, like, what you got? Welder is much better versus, like, red and black removal than it is white removal. I'm not, like, super happy to be facing down a Yorion here with current hand. Alright, we're playing against an ambiguous opener here. Can't really put an artifact in my graveyard meaningfully here to do cute things. I don't really want to play Painter out into Swords to Plowshares here. It's super awkward for me. I might play double Grindstone this turn. Alright, little buddy. Get saucy. Like sending your familiar into combat in D&D. Like, go fucking get him, Owl. While I just, like, sit back and chill. So the awkward thing here is that, like, I'm not comboing off as fast as possible in order to try to play around stuff. This is potentially good for me. And there's also worlds where I just, like, draw Lotus Petal and then just fucking go. Alia is fine. Urza's Saga. Kind of like grinding myself in this turn cycle. Playing Urza Saga. Yeah. Then next turn I can just go Ancient Tomb, Painter, Grindstone, activate. And that beats most cards not named Solitude. It's possible I'm supposed to grind myself while my opponent is tapped out, but I'd rather not give them information. This does unfortunately mean that Seedtime is not happening this league, despite what the thumbnail may or may not promise in regards to Seedtime. Seedtime's kind of the ultimate pipe dream card, right? And then, like, we just didn't really play against very many combo decks, or sorry, very many blue decks in this league. Yeah, I'll float my mana. And let's grind, baby. I've hit a Grindstone. I can now do Sexy Goblin Welder dances. Canonist is fine. I'm fine taking some damage here. Main deck Canonist is super weird. There is a Lotus Petal. Note, Canonist does not stop me specifically from playing multiple spells here. It does stop me from comboing off immediately, though. That much is true. I am fine vomiting this into play, though, and taking 2 life. Just have better options. Alright. Everything is blue. And I can get super greedy here and go for the kill. I don't think I need to go for the kill. If I go for the kill here, I just, like, lose to Solitude. So I don't need to do that. I can just wait till my opponent casts a spell and then kill them in response. Okay, so my opponent has cast a spell here, right? So this now means they can't cast additional non-artifact spells this turn. That means I can Lotus Petal, sack for mana, Lotus Petal out a Grindstone for a Lotus Petal, and mill my opponent out. Let's see what they target with their Skyclave. They're targeting my Goblin Welder. It's not going to work out the way you want. So, make a mana. Weld. Target a Grindstone. Flip-flop it with a Lotus Petal. And my opponent is dead in response. Know your interactions, folks. My opponent just played into a line that guaranteed that they died on board. And that's GG. Oh, they're also going to show me their entire deck, which is cool. Yeah. Don't do that. And good news for them, taking screenshots of this is kind of a pain in the ass. I'll do it. Okay, is there anything super, super notable here? Opponent was playing a 1 of Canonist. That was weird. Everything has a strange hue because of my painter. Otherwise, most of this stuff looks pretty normal. Got a couple Cathar commandos that I need to keep in mind. All right, let's board in a giant pile of Furies, shall we? Maybe Ancient Tombs. Unsure on those. I don't really need Soul Guide Lantern. I don't think I need to eliminate my opponent's Timeless Dragon from their graveyard. My opponent's exile-based removal makes my welders and engineers, like, way worse. However, for reasons that we just saw in that previous game, like, they've still got game. Something to keep in mind here is that my Pyroblasts and Red Elemental Blasts can counter a Yorion, even if my opponent's deck is not normally, like, full of blue stuff. So the upside of Ancient Tomb is just that it allows me to combo off quicker in the times where that matters. It allows me to play around Thalia Taxation better, and it allows me to hardcast like a Fury better. And the obvious downside is that, like, my opponent is trying to kill me by attacking me with creatures, so too many Ancient Tomb activations is actively bad. I'm really unsure on these last couple of cards. I spent most of my sideboarding time coughing, so that does not help me. Let's trim a couple Once Upon a Times and call that good. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to board in extra Ancient Tombs. Ugh. I mean, I have Painter and Grindstone in hand. That means this is going to be a keep. I need more mana with this hand, but, like, I potentially have a turn 3 Goldfish if I draw a land in 3 cards. I am A-okay with that. Let's fetch a basic land here so I don't get immediately wastelanded. And floop a Grindstone into play. And we'll see what my opponent has to say about all my shenanigans. The Ruin's not bad. Thalia's not really what my opponent wants to be doing on turn 2. Okay. Do I want to play to the world where I just Goldfish next turn? Or do I want to set myself up for future success by playing out, like, Goblin Welder? Wish I had more land. My opponent has a bunch of interactive cards that start coming online next turn. Unfortunately, they exile. I think since I don't have another land drop, it makes less sense for me to go for the Goblin Engineer this turn. Everything's blue. There's some worlds where I get to attempt to Goldfish my opponent next turn. Otherwise, I start just eating through their removal. And I have redundant copies of everything because I have Engineer and Grindstone. That's fine. Like, opponent, like, has anti-synergy going on here with, like, Thalia into Swords to Plowshares as the line available to them. Alright. Now, my life's a little awkward because my opponent knows how good Wasteland is against me since I'm missing my land drop here. That's okay. I am just going to grab a Painter to have the other half of my combo. Ancient Tomb becomes very good here. Kind of wish I had boarded in the others at this, like, exact stage of this exact game. Yeah, I am fine taking damage from your Thalia here. Obviously will not be blocking. I will go to 16. Fuck. Ancient Tomb, where are you? I need additional copies of you. Okay. I wonder if opponent has Containment Priest. That's a little awkward. I'm not playing around Archivist of Ogma. Let the record show before I make this play. Well, cool. I'm not gonna play towards like my Once Upon a Time here. We're gonna get Welder going. I have Welder and Engineer active at the same time. It becomes very awkward for my opponent to remove things. No attack into flash creatures. Not even sure if I'm supposed to activate Goblin Engineer. End of turn. If my opponent holds up 2 mana again. I think I am just supposed to wait for Welder to be active. But I can do an emergency flip-flop if I need to. Yeah, I'm going to waste my mana here. I think it is just so much safer for me to wait. Another Goblin Welder. Don't mind if I do. I get to continue to play this like very awkward game where I don't think my opponent can use their mana. And I'm very game for that. Yeah, no attacks into flash creatures. And the more of these Welder effects I have, the easier it is for me to take over this game. I am fine with the Thalia hitting me. I don't mind that. We're playing a very patient dance here. Wasteland is fine right now. Ooh. That's actually pretty annoying. Okay, so the order in which I do this does matter. I'm going to Welder, use Grindstone, target Painter, and then if my opponent were to respond with something like a Fairy, I could activate Goblin Engineer in response, but I couldn't do it in the other order. Alright. My opponent will potentially have a chance to remove my stuff, and now it sucks. Now it sucks that I do have multiple of these things. But I am putting them to the test now. Again, I intend on winning this via combo, so I'm going to hold back these creatures. I may end up throwing some of this stuff in front of Thalia. My opponent's Field of Ruin also might be costing my opponent this game in some worlds. Like this not just being a white pip so that they can't cast relevant cards. Now my 3 cards that I've played out previously all do nothing currently. I think my opponent is going to get this game. Some worlds where that's not true. So hard for me to take this out of play that I think I'm just going to go ahead and throw 2 creatures in front of this. I don't want to do 3 because of Swords to Plowshares. I am okay if my opponent does damage and then bounces Thalia. Like, that works out very well for me in terms of damage and whatnot. Alright, it is another Thalia. That's fine. Ooh. Yeah, opponent's Field of Ruin. Definitely costly inclusion there. That's cool. That's real cool. I think I'm going to try to get some more value out of that. If I win this game, it will take fucking forever. So, let's see if I can at least get 2 or 3 creatures for this Fury. I think I'm willing to take some damage here. Maybe it means I should have attacked with these Goblin Welders. Or no, the Thalia was untapped. Never mind. JK. Different Thalia. Alright, there is an Aganjo. So now, for one of the first times, opponent actually has access to, like, consistent white-white. Let's see what my opponent chooses to get here. They're getting Cauldra, which probably means that this has to be the Fury turn for me. Which isn't great. I'm only actually killing the Stoneforge here. I'm going to pitch Goblin Engineer and keep Pyroblast for worlds where I draw a Painter. Okay. So, note, I just cast this card, right? I evoked this card, which is casting it. Now, I can kill that Containment Priest if I want. I might want to keep that card in play, though, because it makes my opponent's Yorion more awkward. A little awkward for me if they have a Flicker Wisp specifically. Like, I can trade with a Containment Priest in combat. Yeah. Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. And this has actually ended up actively better for me. Because my opponent's Caracas was untapped previously. Oh god. We just got the shame concession. Note, I think my opponent was still going to win that game. Like, I had fucking nothing. But I think they're just, like, pissed that they misunderstood that, interaction. Alright. I can appreciate it. Sorry, and to clarify, by it, I mean, like, just conceding and moving on after you blundered, rather than just, like, sit there and wallow in your mistake. Like, I get it. Alright, overall thoughts on the deck list. Well, I'm sad that this never worked out, but, like, given that we didn't play against blue decks for the most part in this league, like, c'est la vie, right? We did board it in against the Kappa Cannoneer decks, but those aren't, like, the traditional blue cantrip decks that we're looking to be playing against. So ultimately, like, Seedtime, no data gathered. So accordingly, I can't really say anything. Kind of my preconceived notion with Seedtime, based on leagues that I've played with it in the past, was that it's very cute and incredibly powerful when it works. However, it's very hard to actually cast a Seedtime and get it to resolve, right? So, like, one of the issues is a lot of times you'll tap out for a card, and then your opponent will force a will it, and you don't actually have the 2 mana available to Seedtime. So, in addition to being situational in terms of, like, colors of mana required, it's also situational in terms of, like, you actually having enough stuff to support it. Like, enough mana to support your primary play plus your Seedtime play. I thought this actually was going to be a good home for it, in that, like, we have Urza's Saga activations and Grindstone activations that we can hold up, and Goblin Engineer interactions as well. So, like, we weren't necessarily going to be wasting mana if we just, like, pass the turn and wait for our opponent to end step Brainstorm and then get them with Seedtime. It's a card that theoretically might still be good, but is probably on the wrong side of, like, the good versus cute line. Speaking of that line, we never got to do cool things with Wormcoil Engine in this league, but that's because it just, like, ended up in the wrong zones at the wrong time. Like, there was definitely a game where I wanted to tutor for it, and, like, I had Engineer and Welder, but then I like, had it in my opening hand as well, so that was awkward. And there was another time where I had, like, it plus Fable of the Mirror Breaker in my hand, and then just, like, my opponent, like, thought seized the Fable, so I couldn't get Wormcoil Engine into the right zone. So there were a lot of close but no cigar things in this league, but Painter, generally speaking, as an archetype, continues to overperform. My inclination to sideboard in the Ancient Tombs in every round may just mean that, like, that card should have been in the main deck over some of, like, the Once Upon a Times or something like that. Like, these were very good to have access to. Then again, like, we didn't play against the blue cantrip decks, where I would have been, like, ignoring these and boarding in Seedtimes and salivating at the mouth. So, you know, it is what it is. Regardless, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please click the like button on the way out. Feel free to yell at me for using Seedtime in the thumbnail, even though I never cast it in this league. I respect it. You gotta respect the game. You know, marketing, it's a thing I have to do. All right, have a great rest of the day, and if you all have some shenanigans that you all want to see on the channel, remember my donation information, as well as this deck list, is available in the video description. See ya!